So, wanted to talk to you about the intelligence behind suffering and trauma. We we're when we are really trapped within a separate sense of self, view from the egoic perspective. What is egoic perspective? Let me get into that first. But when we're trapped from egoic perspective, which means we are identified consciousness, awareness, attention, aliveness, isness, is trapped, is entranced by looking at life through the lens of separation, through the lens of time. I was born here and I am going to die here. So it's linear, horizontal sense of self, consciousness, which is unlimited, consciousness, which is infinite, consciousness, which is forever existing, is trapped in time frame, thinking of itself, identifying with this form, identifying with thoughts and history, and identifying with all the fear that is repressed in our bodies through past experiences, intergenerational energetics of trauma that are passed on to us, imprints that are not authentically ours, that are inherited. And we are living from the lens of these imprints. So when consciousness is trapped in the ego, the body mind survival mechanism that operates only in time, it only looks through this lens of victim, separate identity. Life happens to me, not I am life. Life happens to me without me desiring or wanting all these experiences. But let me tell you, the intelligence of existence is made in such a way that it infuses itself with form to wake up out of form into freedom. It fuses itself with language to wake up out of language into freedom. It fuses itself with trauma to feel the pain and the confinement and the suffering and the inability to break out of its limits. And yet it is that tension, right? As Rumi said, it is the wound where the light enters. So the intelligence of all of the past experiences of everything that happened to us, it's not something that we have to go and look from just a conscious intellectual observation and say, oh, we forgive them, they don't know better. No, it's not premature forgiveness that can liberate us, understanding that our parents were also conditioned and they suffered too, and therefore they inflicted the suffering on us because they didn't know better. It's not that. The the invitation there, uh, breaking out of this identity with emotion, with thought, with form, is twofold. One is building the muscle of awareness, going into the gym of consciousness, and really practicing palpable, palpable, somatic experience of our true nature. Somatic experience and recognition again and again and again and again, getting out of the metrics. But getting out of the metrics not to bypass the human experience. You're getting out of the metrics so that you can know yourself as the one that is unmoved, unwounded, undying, un, oof, uh, undiscriminating of what should or should not be happening. You are beyond duality, period, altogether. You are the field, a palpable field of frequency and full potential, palpable field of existence. You never not existed. You will never not exist. The you think you are this form, this body, this flesh, these bones, these stories, right? This book, this novel named by your name. Yeah, this will perish very fast, like this, within the magnitude of existence. It's just a glimpse. But I'm not saying that it's just a glimpse to discredit the depth, the beauty, the pain, and everything in between, the confusion, then the missing the mark, the living only in the realm of the shadows, or living too much out there in the realm of la la land, or grounding everything within your being and finding the true path for you, your path. It's not a spiritual path. It's your life is your path. Your suffering is your red flag. Yours, oops, just realizing I'm looking in the wrong place. Your suffering is your invitation. Your suffering is the intelligence of the evolutionary tension that tells you again and again, when you spiral back again to that same compulsive behavior that brings you to the same place, same place, same place. What is it saying? It is saying, alert, be aware, be aware, be aware, be aware. And what is this alert, be aware, be aware, be aware? What's happening is basically what we do in somatic processing sessions. Instead of waiting those few months to come back full circle to the same place you find yourself again and again, same relationship, same same withholding back from life, whatever your path is, it's going to bring you to that same spot so that you can be more aware, consciously aware of the unconscious stuff. But the beauty is with sessions, what we can do and how we can get out of that ego state that is trapped in time, trapped in survival, trapped in needing to feel separate and needing to get love and attention because it didn't get. It's not greedy for it, but it's just the mechanism, something in you cracked in that moment, split in that moment where you didn't get that connection that you deeply needed in that vulnerable moment, and there was no one there. So that imprint that is still looking for unconditional love, acceptance, validation, belonging, that is still going to bring you again and again, not until you be able to stop and really feel what is underneath this compulsive behavior. What's happening? You can start asking right questions. This red flag, this alert, this alarm in your system goes like, hey, something's off. This contraction in your chest or in your stomach says something's off. Something's off. And my inability to sleep, my chronic pain, my anxiety says something's off. What is off? And what is off is something that you've been avoiding all your life. And what is off is you being disconnected from who you truly are. And what is off is also unfortunate, very, very innocent understanding that somehow love or acceptance will come from outside. But it's the pointing to that we will never find what we're looking for. And that feels painful because we're constantly looking for it. We're looking for it in the wrong place. We're grasping on to people, experiences, relationships, stuff We numb ourselves from the pain, the internal pain we have no idea we're carrying. And where's it all going to? But what is the alarm is also telling us? The alarm is telling us that we're never going to find it from outside, ever. And if we even realize that we're never going to find it from outside, the experience of you giving it to yourself, it's also a little bit misunderstood. It's closer, but it's still missing the mark. Because what really happens when we bring ourselves, so instead of waiting those 2-3 years for the spiral to spiral back again, so that conscious awareness can recognize some unconscious motives in sessions, we can create that within weeks, within days. We can get to those unconscious, deep unconscious stuff, move it all. But what is another element? Another element, I see a lot of people doing amazing, tremendous, really powerful inner work. And yet, there's still that subtle identification with the victim identity, the resentment that still lives in the body. Oh my gosh, life is happening to me. They don't have this I am life. And not until you get palpably so that I am life, or in other words, if you're inclined more devotionally, you can get like, well, God is everything. Then I can surrender to God. And then God and I are one if I surrender and there's no me. Or if you realize from more like tantric perspective, I am life. I am existence. Not intellectually, palpably. Being out of this time frame, horizontal experience of existence and entering the more vertical way of being connected to universal field of existence. The totality that no mind can wrap itself around. It's so mysterious and it's so vast and it's like absolutely unconceivable to the mind. But the beauty of that mystery is that we can get not just close to it, we can get to the fact that we are it. We are this magnificent mystery. If we get out of the way, we learn how to surrender. If we practice certain practices that build concentration, that build our awareness, that go to the gym of applying certain scientific tools and techniques like ancient science, they mastered yogis and sages. They mastered their bodies. They mastered their minds. They mastered their energies. They were fascinating things that they were able to do. Like we cannot even, with this very limited modern mind, we cannot even conceive of what was possible. And yet they left those traces. And it works. So we can build our capacity to feel palpably that we are existence itself. We are the mystery. We are the unmoved, serene, palpable presence that is always everywhere at the same time. So when we have that peace, when we have that palpable, not intellectual understanding, but our whole heart resonance understanding that is sipped in experience, in direct experience of this nature, of your true nature, then when we go into the sessions, then when we see the deep unconscious grasping on of the ego onto the horizontal plane of existence, And then we can learn how to pendulate from being on this ledge and then let go and be the space, be on this ledge and let go, be the space. And then we can incorporate this separation that is still lives with us, trying to get attention, trying to be loved, trying to be accepted, validated, and so on, trying to be right. Then that, after, of course, feeling the anger, expressing your ability, like recovering your ability, inherent ability that perhaps you didn't have, that perhaps you were deprived of, to stand up for yourself, to stand up for your right to exist exactly as you are. We were all diminished. We were all repressed. We were all stupefied. We were in some way not allowed to be fully ourselves. And therefore we started to fear. Fear of being me is the disease of this century, because we not just disconnected from ourselves, but disconnecting from ourselves, we're disconnected from God, we're disconnected from source, we're disconnected from what truly matters. And in disconnecting, we lost ourselves. We lost ourselves in this fear of being ourselves. But if we can find who we are, truly are, fundamentally are, and we can hold this fear of being ourselves, and we can give ourselves the permission to be outraged for inability to connect with our parents. We can give ourselves the ability to weep with broken hearts to disconnection from our parents or lack of love or losing our loved ones very early. Like we can weep for real. And then by releasing all that trapped energy, we can finally go and make whatever it is still trepidation in our bodies, still those memories hanging around with us, we can make them whole. We can make them unafraid. We can give them permission to return back home. To return back home and from there claim its rightful space here in existence, claim its rightful place in being simply yourself. And being simply yourself is your power. If simply yourself is your sensitive self, a lot of people in emotional work, they're actually the sensitive people in our reality. We're 20% of the totality. It's a science. 20% are born sensitive men and 20% are born sensitive women. So it's the sensitive ones that come to this work. But instead of now this sensitivity being in the way of your place in the world, because it's intelligence being worshipped for so long. And I'm not saying I am at worship of intelligence. My grandfather is a writer. My grandfather has like generations of these intelligent, very, very profound writers and authors and philosophers, and I am at awe of his ability to retain memory. He's not with us anymore, but oh God, I wish I was able to speak with him today. And so I'm at awe at intelligence, but a lot of us, we got lost in that world because it didn't fit. It didn't fit. But it's finding who you truly are, not being afraid of being who you truly are. You become the leader of mastering emotions and emotional intelligence, not just intellectual intelligence, but emotional intelligence, or your gut feeling, your connection to the earth, right? There's 3 languages, but we've been worshiping only one. The 3 languages are the language of the intellect, the language of the heart, intuition and the language of the gut, your instinct. So, where are you with what imprint, with what ability, with what skill, with what gift have you come here? Because the world is going to try to make you into intellectual. But if you didn't fit, because it was not your place. And for the ones, the intellectuals out there, you know, of course it was much easier. And even that, I'm not saying that they're not disconnected, because being only in your head and being the intellect, you know, if you're disconnected from your heart, and I'm not saying that all the intellectuals are disconnected from their heart. My grandfather is just a phenomenal man that was a man of heart and spirit and a man of mind. And so there are those people. But for us, and I'm speaking for a lot of you, because I've been dealing with emotions for the past 6 years or more and seen so many clients and so many trainees and so many mentorships. And what I see were mostly the ones that didn't fit. We're mostly the odd ones, right? We're mostly the ones that, you know, not quite made for this world. But the beauty is that we returning to ourselves, we might discover who we truly are. And the issue with that the world tried to mold us into what we should be. And there's a lot of suffering with that because we had to repress ourselves. And we had to adapt and we had to hide behind that fear of being me. So this is your invitation to come back home. This is your invitation to discover who you are as life itself, not just this horizontal space of existence, very limited, very needed, but very limited. It's only half within the realm of human existence, is only half of what you are. And then you have the other half. And then you have the whole that is beyond the dual. So if you can get curious enough, where's your suffering? Where's this intelligence of your suffering is taking you? Where is your path? Your path is not just the spiritual practices. Your path is the whole life, the whole experience of interaction. It's a relational thing. It's a relational thing to yourself. It's a relational thing to one another. It's a relational thing to your evolution. Are you committed? Are you hearing the call? Do you see the red flags? What do you do with that? Do you have some practices that help you develop that palpable sense of isness? Do you have some practices that help you to liberate the deep unconscious? All those repressions that are in the way, all those repressions that spurred out as chronic pain, illness, inability to sleep, inability to connect, disconnection, hiding from life, fear, 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 fear. Do you have something? So anyway, this is just barely scratching the surface of the teachings that I am extremely inspired to share with you. The ancient technologies and the new modalities of somatic processing that are diving beyond just the surface story realm, deeper roots. And I invite you to, through these two modalities, I invite you to discover, who are you? Not what are you, but who are you? What is your excitement? What is your gift? What is your blueprint? Not imprint. Well, what is your blueprint? And how is it here to express itself, to manifest itself, to play itself out, to dream itself into existence? Because when we are this, and without all the programs that we picked up along the way from previous generations, grandmothers, mothers, fathers, and all that lineage of suffering accumulated in you to liberate yourself, and with liberating yourself, liberating the 7 generations before you and 7 generations further. You are here to liberate humanity. That's how fundamental it is taking responsibility for your suffering, is taking responsibility for the evolution of humankind, is taking responsibility for stop damaging our children. Stop destroying the world. Stop the inflicted disconnection from existence and the deep loneliness of that. So I'll leave you with that. If you're ever curious, reach out. You know where to find me, probably wherever this post is. You can probably find a link to either a clarity call or some sort of an event I'm doing. So come join me. There is a community. We meet every week for women. I have a women's group that I'm holding, helping, women to really see themselves for the powerhouses that they are, not because we have to become powerful to prove anything to anyone, but because we're powerful by discovering ourselves and our vulnerability and our transparency and our honesty with ourselves first and foremost, our connection to the magic of creation and creator, to the nurturing of the infinite within our hearts. So it's by becoming that whole, embodied, unshattered soul that we simply, by being ourselves, we are powerful. That is true power. That is magnificence in action. That is love in action. That is the future. And you are at the threshold of that. Much love.